Hi, my name is Billy Flowers, and welcome to my channel where I talk about velocity banking and how we can use this strategy to massively pay off debt. And before we get started, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. So on today's video, we got a good one. We got a scenario here where we have negative cash flow. Yeah, you heard that right, negative cash flow. So instead of me talking, let's get started. So, as usual, we're going to start off with our four key numbers. We have our income of $6,000. We have our expenses at $6,100. Our debt is at $15,000. And our cash flow is negative 100. You see that? Negative 100. So we in the red. We not in the black. We in the red. We do have a debt tool. Luckily, we have a debt tool, $15,000. If we were just to pay the regular monthly payment, that would be $600 a month. It has a 15% interest rate, and our debt is a credit card for $15,000. That's also $600 per month at a 25% interest rate. Now we do have rent at $1,800. We have a car payment at $600, car insurance at $150, and the rest of the bills that we can pay with a credit card is $2,950. Now, if we were only to pay the minimum payment on this $15,000 line of credit, for the first year, you would get charged $2,250. And if we broke that down by the month, it'll be $187.50. And per day, we're talking about $6.16 per day. So we're gonna see how we're gonna tackle this, because we're starting off with negative cash flow. We haven't done one of these scenarios before, so I'm going to show you, even with negative cash flow, if you have a credit card that you're paying a monthly payment on, especially one that's this big, you can still pay down your debt. So let's see how this is done. So we have our credit card for $15,000, right? And our income of $6,000. Now, if we took $15,000 from a line of credit, correct, and paid off the credit card in full, what's going to happen? What's going to happen to this monthly payment? You should already know this by now if you've been watching for a while. What's going to happen to that monthly payment? It's going to go away, of course. So if this monthly payment goes away, right? This is no longer a bill. Remember, this is no longer a bill, right? I'm gonna go over here, right over here. If this is no longer a bill, our expenses are also going to go down, correct? So our expenses is $6,100. I'm gonna write it down here. I have to bend over for this one. $6,100 minus this $600, correct? So now our expenses are going to be $5,500. $5,500 per month. And what else is going to happen? What about that most important number? What is that? We got minus $100. We're going to get that cash flow, right? Because we got minus $100 right now. So we got minus $100. Now, it's going to take a little bit of math skills. You know, back in the day when we dealt with negative numbers, if we add $600 to this, what are we going to equal? You know, I'll just go slow. So we have 600. It's going to take 100 of that to get to 0. And then what we're going to have left? 500. See, that was easy. 500. So now, that quick, we went from negative $100 to $500 in cash flow. That's all I did. All we did was, well, yeah, we used Peter to pay Paul, but when we used Peter to pay Paul, we got this cash flow freed up. So now we can start attacking Peter and pay him down, because that's we use Peter to pay Paul. So now we're gonna pay Peter. We're gonna pay Peter off. That's what we're gonna do. So let's get started and see how this is gonna work. This is your line of credit here. You took your $15K to pay this credit card off. And then we're going to have our income of $6,000. This is month one. $6,000 going into the line, bringing the balance all the way down to $9,000. So we have our expenses that are going to come out of $5,500. And it's going to raise the balance up to $14,500. And now we're going to get charged interest, $187.50. Now, you know, I always like to take the interest off the balance at the start of the month, the high balance. So that's where we get this $187.50 from. Because remember, that's where we got this interest cost from, $187.50. It's going to raise the balance up to $14,687.50 at the end of month one. Now, before I go on, like I said, our cash flow was at a minus $100. We were in the red. Now, whenever this happens, like if you're in the red or you have very little cash flow, you need to really look and take a good look at your expenses. And I know that we say that you can still have your same lifestyle, but you're gonna have to take a look at your expenses and just see if there's any wasteful spending anywhere, because I can guarantee you that some of y'all have some wasteful spending in there. You can probably cut back on a few things, maybe not go out to eat as many times during the week, save a little money there. You might not go to Starbucks, you know what I'm saying, every day or a few times a week. Cut back, maybe start getting coffee, brew your own coffee, or go to a cheaper place. There's things that you can do, even having a bunch of subscriptions. Some people they're subscribed to stuff that they don't even know they're subscribed to. You got to figure out, you got to really look at your bills and pinpoints, like, where's any, do I have any wasteful spending? Could I get any closer to zero, at least to zero? Could I shave $100 off and just get to zero? Because if we get to zero, then we're going to start off with $600 in cash flow. If you get to zero, and then if you get a little bit above that's anything is going to help. Every dollar counts. So I suggest that if you have low cash flow or even negative cash flow, you're going to have to seriously look at your bills and see where you can cut back. This, it might take a little time, but if you're serious about paying off debt, you might have to make a little sacrifice for a little bit until you get back on your feet. So with that said, let's get back to these numbers. In month two, we're going to do the same exact thing. We're going to have our income going in, $6,000, and our expenses coming out, raising the balance up to $14,187.50. $183.59 is the interest cost. $14,371.09 is the balance at the end of month two. Month three, income in, expenses out, interest, $179.64, balance, $14,050.73 at the end of month three. Month four, repeat. Income in, expenses out. Here's the interest charge, $13,726.36 is the balance at the end of month 4. Month 5, we have our income of $6,000 going in, our expenses of $5,500 coming out, raising the balance up to $13,226.36. Interest, $171.58. Balance, $13,397.94 at the end of month 5. Month 6, you already know. Rinse and repeat. Income in, expenses out, interest charge. $13,065.41 is the balance at the end of month 6. Month 7, income in, expenses out, interest charge of $163.32, balance $12,728.73 at the end of month 7. Month 8, income in of $6,000, expenses out of $5,500, interest we're going to get charged $159.11. $12,387.84 is the balance at the end of month 8. Month 9, income in, expenses out, $154.85 is the interest. $12,042.69 is the balance at the end of month 9. Month 10, income in, expenses out of $5,500. We have our interest charge here of $150.53, raising the balance up to $11,693.22 at the end of month 10. Month 11, we have our income of $6,000, our expenses of $5,500 coming out, raising the balance up to $11,193.22. Interest we're getting charged now, $146.17. Balance is going to be $11,339.39 at the end of month 11. Month 12, income in, expenses out, interest charge, $10,981.13 is the balance at the end of month 12. So we're at the 1 year mark here, and we had $15,000 balance on this card, and now we're a little under $11,000. Not too bad starting off with $100 of cash flow. You really can't complain from going from $15,000 to $11,000 when you had a cash flow starting off in a negative. This is progress right here, because most people, they would think they would be stuck right now. But you're not stuck. We're not stuck because we're doing velocity banking, and this is how you become unstuck. So continue the unstuckness in month 13. We're going to put our income in, our expenses coming out, interest getting charged now, $137.26, $10,618.39 is the balance at the end of month 13. Month 14, we have our income going in, our expenses coming out, $132.73 is the interest, $10,251.12 is the balance at the end of month 14. Month 15, income of $6,000 going in, expenses of $5,500 coming out, $9,751.12 is the balance. $128.14 is the interest. $9,879.26 is the balance at the end of month 14. And you might be asking yourself, like, well, you didn't finish this. Well, if I did finish this, we'll be here for a very long time, and I want to spare you some of this time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my notes, And I'm going to erase this right here because I did the rest of the work for myself. I did the rest of the work for all of y'all on paper in my notes. And we're going to actually pay this line all the way down to zero, right? We're going to pay this off in 38 months. So let me write that down here. 38 months, we're going to pay this off. Now that, start off with negative cash flow. This might seem like a long time, but just imagine what this credit card statement says, how long it's going to take you to pay off that $15K, especially if you had negative cash flow, right? It would have took way longer than 38 months. This is a little over 3 years. 3 years and 2 months, right? And you know that credit card statement is going to be like, 20, 25 years, maybe 30. It's going to take you, because you were just paying the minimum monthly payment because that's all you could afford. You couldn't afford to put no extra money on it. Some people put a little extra on it. You didn't have no extra to put on it. Matter of fact, you was in a hole. You was barely paying the minimum payment. So 38 months it'll take you to pay off this card. You got some sunshine in 38 months. I mean, you're going to have a little bit of sunshine before that because you're going to see this balance going down every month. But 38 months, it's a sunny day. Yeah, it's real sunny. It's a nice one of them perfect days, like 75 degrees. This nice little cool breeze. You talking on the beach. 38 months. You chilling on the beach now because you didn't pay this card off, and you're going to reward yourself. So you going to the beach, lay out on the beach, get a tan after 38 months. All this all your hard-earned money, now you're going to have the full cash flow of $600. You're going to have the full cash flow. So, like I always do, we're going to go back to school. I've written this down in my notes already. And the interest that you're going to end up paying this whole time, the whole 38 months, I went through and added up all the interest, calculated all the interest, is $3,912.66. Now, that number seems high. It is pretty high. And the way we're going to calculate, what I like to do is I want to see if we actually going to beat the 15%. But I don't know. So what you're going to do is you're going to go on Google and type in $3,912.66 is what percent of, where do we start with? 15,000. And I'm going to show a number to you. You might be shocked compared to my other videos. So I'm going to write this down. And immediately somebody sees this number is going to be like, see, I told you, this is a scale. This is what the interest costs of me adding up all these numbers. This is the interest that you actually paid. And I'm gonna break this down a little bit. I'm gonna explain to you why this interest cost is so high. Because there gets to a certain point when you have a large amount of debt and your cash flow is small, it's going to take you longer to pay off that debt. Am I correct? And the longer it takes you to pay off debt, the more interest that you're going to get charged because time equals the interest, correct? So if it's taking you 38 months to pay this off with $500 of cash flow, because remember we started off with negative 100. We only had $500 of cash flow to work with, and then our interest was coming out of that as well. So the interest is coming out of that $500. This is almost $200 of interest there. So really the net cash flow is a little over $300 right here. But remember, all my interest costs is off of the high balance each month, right? So that's going to drive this interest cost down just a little bit, right? Also, what about them rewards? See, we always forget about them rewards. See, we're going to be using them rewards this whole time. So I calculated the rewards at 1% because remember, we're charging $2,950 per month on the credit card that we paid off. At 1%, you're getting $29.50 per month. So I calculated all the way to 37 months. That's $1,091.50. $1,091.50 that you're going to be subtracting from this interest cost. Because if you just take those rewards and subtract it every month from your balance, that's pretty much just subtracting your interest cost. Just offsetting the interest cost, right? At 1.5%, this bumps up to $44.25. Look at that number right there. $1,637.25. Ain't that crazy? So you're taking this, you're subtracting this from this total right here. You think that's going to drive this number down? Matter of fact, I even wrote that down. I put that in my notes here too. I'm going to have a final point to make after this too, even sweeten the deal even more, right? So at 1%, we're going to be, if you minus this from this total right here, you're going to be at $2,821.16. And if we do the same calculation, you're going to put this number here is what percent of 15,000 you're going to get. This is more respectable right here. 18.81%. And at 1.5%, we're talking driving the balance down to 2275, 41, and here we're actually closer to that 15%. See that? We're actually closer to that 15%. Factoring that 1.5. And there's one little last note I want to make. Is this credit card right here. Remember, this credit card is paid off. And a little trick that we use as Velocity Bankers, if you have a credit card that's paid off, you're going to be running your expenses through that card, correct? And are you going to be having your expenses coming out? This $2,950, are you going to have these expenses come out the line as the expenses get charged on the credit card? Oh, no. See, we're keeping these expenses on this card the full 30 days, the full billing cycle. And then when this due date comes up, then we're going to pay the card in full, correct? So that means that $2,950 is not even going to be factored into this line until the due date. And I just did a simple calculation. I just said, if we didn't have this money in the line at all for 20 days, I gave you a 10-day leeway, 20 days out of the month. That's about another $25 that you're saving in interest every month. So you factor in $25 plus your rewards, $25 is almost doubling this number right here. This number right here, just this number right here. So what do you think is going to happen to these interest costs just by holding all your expenses onto the credit card for the full billing cycle? And remember, some cards, like I have a Capital One card, I can change the due date. And you can change the due date like right before you have a paycheck coming in, correct? So you take money out of here, your line of credit, and you pay the credit card off, and then maybe the next day or a few days later, you get paid, right? And you put that money right back into this line of credit, driving the balance down and driving that interest cost down. So you're not staying at that full balance, this 29.50. You're not staying at that high balance. You're immediately knocking that balance right back down. So you're getting charged less interest in the process. So you got to learn that the interest gain, the lower that you keep the balance every day, the lower that you can keep that money out, these expenses out, the longer that you can keep it out, the less interest that you're going to pay in the process. So you have to remember that. So use this credit card that you paid off to your advantage. So you can also use this to offset your interest cost. And I guarantee you, your interest cost is going to be way lower than this. It's going to be way lower than this. But the reason that it's so high is because you have a big amount of debt and you're trying to pay it off with a little bit of cash flow. So if we double this cash flow, maybe we're getting $1,000 instead of $500, then we're just going to cut this interest cost in half. Same $15,000. If we had $1,000 of cash flow, we would cut this interest cost in half, and then you'll be at 13%. So you're beating this. And then if we factored in the rewards, we'll be lower than 10% easy. So remember, if you have a large amount and you have very little cash flow, you're going to pay more interest because that's time. As time goes, the interest is going to accumulate. So even if you have a big number, say if you have a HELOC and if you still have good cash flow, but the the balance is large, like you have, $100,000, $200,000 out there, and you're trying to pay that off, even with good cash flow, you're going to be paying higher than what the interest, what the line of credit says, but it's still going to be better than you paying the minimum monthly payment, in this case, on this credit card, because you know how long it's going to take you there, and then you know how those amortized loans work. Even if you're paying a higher percentage on the line of credit than what it says, you're going to be way ahead, especially on a mortgage. A mortgage, they charge you over the life the life of the loan. If you have a certain percentage rate, you're paying double. You're paying over 100% easy. So if your interest rate on a line of credit or a HELOC, right, is 8%, and you end up paying like maybe 16 or 20% on that, right? It's still better than 120%, isn't it? Because you're buying, remember, you're buying a house when it comes to that case. You're buying the bank a house, and so you can have your house, but you bought a bank a house too. That's how this works. That's how the banks make their money. So as long as you're not paying the full term, the 30 years or the 25 years it's going to take you to pay this credit card off. Remember, we paid this off in 38 months, starting off with negative cash flow. I say that's a win. And you better celebrate that win once you pay this off, starting off with negative cash flow. But don't forget to look at your bills and see if you can get that a little closer to zero. So I just want to thank you for watching today. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment below. And like I always say, get that cash flow.